All right, yo, what's good, everyone? It's a Shooting Game Weekly, episode 104, and this week we're rocking some Thunder Force AC or Thunder Force 3 on the Genesis or Mega Drive arcade version ported from the Genesis version because it was just such a hit on the Mega Drive. And in this episode, we're joined by Peg. So welcome to the episode, Peg.
All right, thank you.
And you have the world record score in Thunder Force AC, so that's awesome. Honored to have you on the show, and thanks for bringing the replay on, and we're checking this out in Thunder Force.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for the invite.
It's always fun when we can talk to the people who have the WR in the few cases that it happens. One of them in particular, I remember it was Pestro 87 with Ginga Force, which is an amazing game. But anyway, so Thunder Force. Oh, also co-hosting on the episode as well is Cream and Trap.
What's up?
So, hello. We'll be hanging out, checking out this replay. But yeah, Peg. So why don't you just talk a little bit about how you got into Thunder Force to begin with, and then Thunder Force 3 into AC.
Well, initially I was going through and playing a lot of the shoot 'em ups on the SNES, and I came across Thunder Spirits, and I went and played through that, and I kind of thought it was pretty unremarkable actually, but it did have some pretty good music. So I went and looked up kind of the history of it, and I eventually came to Thunder Force AC, which I thought was vastly superior to the SNES version. Kind of goes without saying, but anyway, like the soundtrack for it, I just thought was incredible, and I kind of really just got into it because I like the soundtrack so much. And to be honest, I haven't really played much of Thunder Force 3, so I'm mainly just going off of playing Thunder Force AC.
Okay.
But I do know the differences, and we could talk about that if you want to get into that.
Yeah, definitely. So there are some slight differences, and like I said, the game was popular as a Mega Drive game, and then became an arcade game. And this like phenomenon kind of happens every now and then. I've noticed, for some arcade games, like a console game will become an arcade game. And one of the most recent examples I can think of is Caladrius, which is originally on the Xbox 360. But I mean, that's kind of different. Like, that's kind of unique for the game. And then that's cool about the music being something that stood out, because that is like probably, I mean, one of the main things that makes shoot 'em ups like as awesome of a genre as it is when you have a really good soundtrack that just makes you want to play the game just over and over. But I mean, so that's really cool.
Absolutely, that's pretty important to me when I play these games. I can't really get into it if the soundtrack is awful, to be honest. So I'm kind of a snob like that. But yeah, so it's pretty rare, I think, that you have one of these like console games ported back to the arcade. In fact, this was the only one I even knew of that until you mentioned Caladrius.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm not sure how many of them are out there, but I think it's a pretty. You need like a special game, I think, for that to happen. It's from what I can tell.
So I mean, I'm guessing it was just so popular too because of the music, and people are taking notice of that. And I mean, there's a lot of different music, isn't there? It seems like.
Yeah, and each of the various versions are kind of slightly different. They have a little bit different audio hardware. So all three of the soundtracks, they're all pretty good. I personally think the Thunder Force AC soundtrack is the best from the Thunder, those three games. So.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so let's get into talking about Thunder Force itself. So why don't you just go into some of the mechanics of the game just real quick, and then we'll jump into the replay. I actually have just the arcade demonstration attract mode playing right now on the stream.
Okay. Yeah, so the mechanics are very simple. So basically every enemy has like fixed point values, and really the only kind of scoring in it is making sure you get all the power-ups and then milking little enemies that get spawned. Okay. By various things. So it's really quite simple as far as the scoring goes. I mean, it's an old game. It's from like, I think 1990. They didn't really have too complicated scoring back then.
Right. So, just a very simple one, yeah.
And then One of the main things to note about it is it does kind of have I wouldn't really call it rank, but the enemies will appear differently and the power-ups will appear differently depending on the state of your shield. And that's really the only thing you need to know as far as where to get all the power-ups and things. And you'll see that when we watch the replay, how that comes into play. But that was something I had no idea about, and I kind of stumbled upon it just randomly. But
yeah, you're saying that's important. Like a little bit of like a rank thing, just having the shield, and that makes extra things happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really important because some power-ups won't appear if you have the shield or you don't have the shield. It really, you have to kind of figure out where you need to have the shield or not in order to maximize your score.
Okay.
So it's kind of strange, but yeah.
That's kind of different. Well, at least that provides some tension for the scoring, I'd imagine. Well, maybe there's a hard section somewhere, and then you lose your shield at that point, and then maybe you won't get like some points they're trying to get.
Yeah, and you're pretty much, if you're playing scoring and you don't manage the shield properly, you got to restart. It makes a huge difference.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So was there like what was the previous score that you know of, or was there one?
So the previous score was about 2.42 million, and mine is about 2,000, I think 2,600, 2,700 points higher, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So it's not a whole lot. It's very close. Actually, the first time when I first broke the score, it was only by like 100 points.
Oh,
and then I went back and did it again for a little bit more, but it was supposedly the old record was also done without auto fire, which I have no idea how they did that, because you have to I mean, my playthrough, it's like essential. I have no idea how they did the old score.
Interesting. Wow. That's cool that you beat it just by only 200 points, though. Like, that's pretty epic.
Yeah, well, it's really weird because they actually had an auto fire score listed on there too, so they had it separate.
Oh.
But the auto fire score was like quite a bit lower than the non-auto fire score, which I thought was mind-boggling, because there's definitely parts in the game where if you don't have auto fire, I have no idea how you're supposed to get the points. Like,
that's weird.
So yeah.
Seems like a weird discrepancy there.
It is. I still have no idea like what was going on with that. You know, the like scoring replays on this game are pretty non-existent for the most part. So I kind of just spent like a ton of time figuring things out on my own.
Sure. Interesting. Okay, cool. All right, well, I suppose we are ready to jump into the replay now.
All right.
So, and then this is it's not too long of a game, huh? Like 25 minutes. It's not too bad.
It's really short.
Pretty typical.
Back when this game came out, like the sort of visual effects they had, like how the background sort of waves during the fire stage and that sort of thing, like that was all fairly new, and I think like it drew a lot of attention to the game. And I think this was also the first time Technosoft made a game for a home console instead of a computer. Besides the Thunder Force 2 port for Mega Drive.
Yeah, there's also a Thunder Force 2 for the what is it, like the X68? I forget what the system is, but that I'm not sure if that came before the Mega Drive version or not. But they have made some other ports of these games.
Well, the 68K version.
Yeah, that's
first,
it.
But
okay,
68K is a computer, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let us jump into the replay then, shall we? It'll be countdown 3, 2, 1, go. Are we ready then?
Yep.
Great. 3, 2, 1, go.
Standard for survival mission. Copyright 1995.
I do like how muffled that title is announced there.
Yeah, the audio samples are pretty much like indecipherable. Like you can't even tell what they're saying for the most part.
That's like Thunder Dragon 2 style there. Funny too, huh?
Yeah, you can kind of make it out a little bit, but some of the things are not what you would think. Like the the H weapon, you would think it would be like homing, but it's actually called hunter. It's, I don't know, they got some weird names.
So is there like a power-up system in this game where like you got hit and you lose power and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, if you get hit and you die, you lose that weapon that you collected. So there's 5 different weapons. You start with 2 of them, and you basically can power those 2 up, and there's 3 additional weapons you can get that have different abilities. And kind of the key to this game is figuring out when to use which weapon. And then you also get those little rotating claws around the ship, which basically are kind of like options that give you some extra firepower, and they also provide defense against bullets and can damage enemies too. So this part here is where you really need the auto fire to take these missiles out. There's really, I don't know how you do it without it.
Okay.
Got some nice little milking going on there.
Yeah, that's essential. Even though a lot of those don't even give you very many points. I think some of it's only like 10 or 20 points, but that can actually break a score. Like, if I hadn't milked those the first time I broke the record, I wouldn't have done it. So you kind of have to do that every time, even if it's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the first boss. Now, the bosses in this game are pretty much an absolute joke. Like, you'll just incinerate this guy in like 2 seconds. He doesn't even get to do anything. So they're all kind of like that. I should mention this game is actually pretty easy. I mean, for arcade standards, I guess since it's ported from a console, you know, it's kind of like a lot easier than probably other contemporary stuff from that time. But
yeah, people have said this is like one of the easier 1cc's to go for as far as arcades go. Well,
I
arcade
would definitely agree with
shmups.
that.
Yeah, which is cool.
Oh.
I mean,
Thunder Force fans have said that this is the easiest game in the series, and believe it or not, the original Mega Drive version gives you quite a few more lives than the arcade version.
okay.
Yeah, and by the end of the arcade version, you have probably like 13 lives too, so it's very generous with that.
Yeah.
Although you can't die at all if you're scoring. I mean, you gotta restart.
I've also heard that the arcade version uses the highest difficulty setting on the console version.
Yeah, I believe that.
Well, that's cool.
So it should probably the differences between the console and arcade. The arcade version has fixed stages, versus in the console version you can actually pick the order you want to play the first 5 stages in. So that's kind of the main difference, I think. And the enemies are a little bit different. There's a couple other differences too, like that there's 2 different stages in the Genesis game versus this one. So they're both definitely worth playing.
Hey Cream, we're getting some echo of Peg through your speakers.
Oh yeah, I'll turn it down.
Okay. Either that or headphones, or that should do it. In any
Okay.
case. So notice you are switching weapons every now, pretty often. Is that just to account for the like a wave that's coming up that's particularly it needs a particularly power? So like, I guess there's a lot of memorization of when to switch the weapons. Then like you must be
Yes.
switching like 6 or like up maybe up to 6
switch it.
times per stage or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of switching, and there's also you can also adjust your speed, which you'll have
Right.
to do from time to time in the game. If you're just playing kind of casually, you can probably just stick it on like the 3. There's 4 settings for the speed. 3 is what I would just stick with if you don't really care too much about, you know,
Yeah.
trying to go for a high score in this. But yeah, you definitely use all the settings if you're scoring. So like right here, you'll see a part where I'll switch weapons pretty quickly. It's coming up.
Yeah, I forgot for a moment you can freely switch between the weapon types.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's essential.
Yeah. If you weren't able to do that, it would be much more difficult to.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be able to kill everything.
Get
if you
the
couldn't do
things.
that. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Here's some more. I didn't really milk that guy perfectly there. Oh well. Yeah, so those power-ups give you a ton of points. Like, you saw that 10,000? That's, like, huge in this game.
Okay.
You absolutely need to get all the power-ups if you want to score well in this.
Is there anything tricky with how many appear, or like when they appear, or anything like that?
Well, that second stage actually has a lot of really strange behaviors for when you have the shield or not, and when the power-ups will appear. It'd be way too hard for me to explain it here, but essentially you need to have your shield removed at a certain part in order for a power-up to appear, and you'll actually have to do that later on too.
Okay.
Otherwise, you miss all those points. It's kind of weird. You'd think if you just went through the game without getting hit, you would get like all the right power-ups that appear, but that's not how it works. So this is really obnoxious here. That mini boss that just gets destroyed. Sometimes that guy does not show up, and that's worth 5,000 points. So if he doesn't show up, you basically have to just restart again. It's really obnoxious.
Oh man, that sucks.
I'm sure it's a bug, but it happens probably like, I'd say 1 out of 3 times, so it's really annoying.
Damn, that's
yeah,
annoying.
that was very rage-inducing when I was doing these runs.
Because that trivializes like a lot of like stages, wouldn't it, for you? If you don't have 5,000 points, that's like a lot of enemies.
And that second stage is actually probably the hardest one to get a really high score on. So you could do really well on that stage, and then come here and that guy doesn't show up, and you're like, it's
great,
awful. Yeah. So. Yeah, the second stage, I kind of didn't really explain it too well, but there's a mini boss that shows up, and you need to milk his little projectiles, and it's very hard to optimize it. So that's probably one of the make or break points in this game as far as scoring.
Okay.
So pretty early on.
Was it those like plants that were shooting like all those little spore thingies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy.
You notice you were kind of like waiting at the last moment to get them all.
Right, and I actually screwed that up because if you kill that guy, you get another 3,000 points, and I didn't kill him on this run.
Oh.
So that could be another improvement.
Wow.
The problem is you have to time the kill pretty precisely. It's really, I don't know, it's really hard to do. It's kind of easier just to not kill him and spawn, like, get as many of those things as you can. So
for that reason, sometimes you don't kill him. I guess. Okay.
It's really probably only a net, I'd say 1,500 if you kill him, because you lose out on some of the spawns if you kill him. It's kind of hard to explain, but. So this is actually one of the stages that's different from the Mega Drive version. This doesn't exist in that one. And this was actually probably the easiest one besides the first stage, because you pretty much just take this homing weapon and just obliterate everything. You don't even really have to do a whole lot here.
Yeah, this is like the Thunder Force weapon, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's so overpowered if you're just going for like a 1cc. I mean, you can literally just play the game with this weapon, hold it down, and march your way through it without too much trouble.
Yeah, it makes you want to try the other
fun,
weapons.
but
yeah,
because it just slaughters everything.
And they keep a lot of the same weapons throughout the series, don't they?
Yeah, they do with some variations to it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've listened to the music or even played through this game myself, so now I'm hearing it for the first time, and this track in particular is sounding pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all pretty good.
Well, to have a Sega game like in 1990 that was doing the sound, like taking advantage of the hardware nicely, and it must have impressed.
Yeah.
Like when it came out, so.
Yeah, another thing that's nice about this weapon is if you just play through the game, you can find all the hidden power-ups with it because it'll home in on them, so it's a good way to locate them if you're not familiar with where they all are.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, so here's a word of advice. If you want to, don't play the Saturn version of this game, because the scoring is all messed up in it. Like, you can just farm missiles off that guy forever if you want to. and so it's really just broken. I would stay away from it. I'd say this wave weapon probably gets the most use out of all of them. Just by... What's nice about this weapon is it actually goes through the terrain. So you can hit stuff even if it's hiding behind things.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. You do use that in the end, which you'll see. The very end of the game makes use of that. So, you see that yellow fish I just killed there?
No, I missed it, actually.
You missed that? Okay, yeah, it died pretty fast, but this is one of those spots where if you don't have a fully powered shield, those guys won't show up, and they're worth quite a bit of points, so you really need to have your shield here if you want to collect all those. And this is actually where some of the milking really comes into play, and there's a few tricks that are kind of... The enemies will stay around even if they're off screen for a little while, and you can use that to your advantage to kind of get as many of these guys as possible. You'll see how I kind of do it there.
Yeah.
Where it takes that that thing that's spawning the enemies along with a few additional ones right as it's leaving the screen, and that's actually very important if you want to maximize a score.
Yeah, that looked nice.
This is one of the trickier levels, I would say, for scoring in. Here's a spot where you'll probably want to reduce your speed just to navigate through this a little easier.
Yeah. So do the power-ups power up a weapon individually, or all the weapons? I forget if you mentioned that.
The only ones that you power up are the first two.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then the 3 additional ones that you get full power as soon as you pick up the power-up.
Okay.
So here's a part where I intentionally got rid of the shield because it gives you a few more enemies.
It's so weird how there are exceptions to that rule, like, everywhere.
Yeah, so I should clarify that. It's actually the red shield, which means you have 1 more hit left, and no shield is the same state. So you can have 1 hit left in your shield, and you can still... It's as if you didn't have one as far as that the rank goes.
That makes it even trickier.
Yeah, well, it's actually nice because it gives you an extra hit in case you screw up somewhere.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And actually, here's another part where I'm going to intentionally get rid of the shield because there's going to be a power-up early on in the next stage I need to collect.
Man, really cracked him open with that explosion.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious how fast the bosses go down with that laser weapon.
That was pretty quick.
So this power up right in the middle there, that you can only get it if you have the red shield or no shield. So that's took me forever to find out how that was occurring. That's actually originally how I discovered this whole thing with the shield state.
Man, that is weird.
At first I thought it was random, but it turns out it's not. So this level, you're basically flying around a big ship. You know, it's kind of a cliche in some of these games. I think R-Type probably invented that.
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, yeah, so many of them, did have the battleship stages, it's true. If it's not a space battleship, it's a naval battleship.
Yeah.
Well, it's a classic. It works.
Tried and true. Yeah, so most of this is actually one of the... Well, it would be an easier level for scoring, except for this part coming up, which is actually probably the make or break for a high score in this game. You'll see in a second, but essentially all these ships spawn and you just milk them for like quite a bit of them, but they spawn, but I don't know if it's random or if you have to time a kill to make it happen, but sometimes it'll spawn only a few and then other times it just spawns like a massive amount. And I don't think it's random. I think it is, you do have to time a kill up here to do it, but it's really hard to get it to happen. And I did it on this run. You'll see it's coming up right here. See that thing that's spitting those ships out?
Mm-hmm.
You have to time killing that thing there, right there, where it just starts spewing these things out like crazy. If you don't time that right, it'll spit out maybe, I don't know, a quarter of those, and this is where you get a ton of points. So this is really, really tricky to pull that off. I'm still not entirely sure if you can actually trigger that or if it's random. I think you can trigger it though, based on my runs. But yeah, that's a really kind of annoying part.
Huh.
Especially this, like, in the game, so that can really make or break your run. And this is my favorite stage here, which is kind of like, it's not technically the last level, but it kind of is.
Cool.
I really love the music on this level. It's my favorite in the game.
Nice. I was wondering when you'd say which one's the favorite.
Kind of busting your way into the enemy territory.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
So here is just more and more milking of those guys that spit out the ships. That's really the majority of the score on this level, is getting those red. I don't know what they are, but you kind of have to just maximize it.
Okay.
Through using the different weapons. You get a lot of like use out of all the weapons on this level too, which I think is pretty cool.
Nice. Is a reason that maybe for the auto fire run they get less points is like the auto fire causes despawns of the enemies, maybe?
I don't think so, but I tried playing without auto fire too, and I didn't notice any differences. It just made it a lot harder.
Yeah, that's all I can really think of.
That's the only difference I noted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it actually does. The game does become quite a bit harder because most of the enemies do not die in one hit in this game. But when you have auto fire, they might as well die in one hit because it's so fast.
It's that dramatic. Oh, okay.
So, with the lasers, is it kind of like in Gradius where, like, if you get hit by a laser or piercing projectile or you run into an enemy, like, your shield just shatters and you die? Or...
No, you do get a little bit of invulnerability. It's very short, though, so it will drain very quickly, but it doesn't instant kill you.
Gotcha.
So you can, like, run through walls and stuff if you want. But yeah, it does melt it away pretty fast when you try doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop looking at that, like, X thing in the X background. Like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but it looks really cool. It's like, damn,
yeah,
it
looks
looks
kind of
cool.
cool. Like, the backgrounds are very detailed in this.
Oh man, it's scrolling every which way.
Yeah.
Trying to get you.
And so these things I'm milking here, you want to be as far front in the screen as possible because they as soon as you fly near them is when they start spawning stuff. So you want to try to get like right near them as quickly as possible if you want to maximize the number of guys that they spawn.
Okay.
So right here, after I kill this mini boss or whatever this thing is, I'm going to make use of firing through walls to get some points. This is actually another really tricky part here. these things kind of close in on you, but you can kill them all. I didn't figure this out until a lot later, but they give you quite a bit of points.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of the last hurdle of the game. Like after that, it's pretty much there's not much. I mean, you kill this boss, which is probably I would say the hardest boss in the game, but that's kind of a joke. I mean, there's none of these bosses are really hard.
Yeah.
Final phase.
So this is the final level here.
It's a
Just
nice
kinda-
background.
Yeah.
The final level starts out with a boss. That's pretty sick.
There's two mini
Mid-boss.
bosses, and so one thing to note here is you can run into the ground on the bottom, but not the top. So
Weird.
you want to try to
Huh.
avoid those upward instead of downward, because you can kill yourself if you're not careful.
Kind of dig how he's shooting like R-type helixes.
Yeah. So coming up's the final boss, which I'm not sure what it is. It's like a evil computer or something.
I think the people that made this game definitely were fans of R-type,
Yes.
personally.
This guy's gonna go down very quickly.
Damn.
This is also a really cool music track too, but you don't really get to hear it much because the guy dies so fast.
We have a question in the chat
Sure.
asking, would you say this is a good game for a beginner in shooting games to play?
I would say so. There is kind of some really annoying memorization parts in the second level, but beyond that, it's very straightforward. The second level's that fire stage, and there's lots of places where it will just cheese kill you. You know, kind of like a wall of will show up and kill you without you really knowing it's gonna come. But besides that level, everything's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the Thunder Force games I think are kind of known for their easier difficulty. Actually, maybe I'm wrong about one of the games, but I think that was the case. Like they are a bit more laid back, so like people
Yeah.
can just like drink
They are.
beer basically and play the game and not worry too much about like doing crazy dodges. Just more about like the thrill of using the excessive firepower is the appeal in some of the
Yes.
case, I think.
I agree. That's why I like this game. Is it's one of the games where you overmatch the opponent so badly that it's just kind of not even fair, but it's still fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like I always wanted to play the PS2 Thunder Force, I think 6,
Yeah.
because that just looks like so fun, even if it didn't look really that challenging.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think
there's
that one was made by Sega after Technosoft went under.
Okay, yeah. When did Technosoft go away? Then I wonder. Man, that ending was awesome.
yeah.
I think sometime in the early 2000s. That's when most of the big shooting game developers went under.
Man, that was a great ending. There was like a lot of pictures in there and stuff. Like that was really
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You made it.
That voice always cracks me up.
What did he say? Did he say at the ranking screen you managed, or what did he say?
You made it.
Oh, you made it.
Yeah.
I like that interpretation though. You managed.
Yeah.
All clear with the exclamation point and everything.
That's right. Yeah. So a huge
job
part
on
of your score. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you can go. I was just saying, good job on this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
just
a
gonna
good
say,
run.
yeah, the big part of your score is actually your extra lives. So those are another thing you have to make sure to pick up throughout the game, because you get 100,000 points at the end for each live you have. So it's really important to find all the hidden ones.
Okay, and like, do you think there are still hidden one-ups anywhere? Or like, it sounds
I
like
don't-
you're still figuring out stuff about the game.
I don't think so,
Okay.
because I've went through every level so many times with emulators, and I've done as much as I possibly could to try to find things, and I think I've
Yeah.
found everything. So I mean, it's possible, but I'm not I've went through it pretty exhaustively.
Yeah,
Like with running with and without the shield. I've done that through every level many times, just to see what the differences are. And
I've heard you should have like always 11 lives at the end.
yeah, I think that's the max you can get.
Nice.
So this
So I guess one more thing is just to talk about the amount of time I put into that, and I think I had somewhere around like 300 credits or something. A lot of them actually end on the very first level though, because of that. There's that one part where you have to kill the missiles, and that is actually very tricky to pull off and still destroy them all without getting killed. So
I see.
I'd say I probably died on that first stage, maybe like 25%, 30% of the time.
That could be kind of rough, but it sounds like there's only
It
maybe
is.
a few things in the game that are like that, so I'm not holding
if
it
you-
back too much, I hope.
Yeah. If you take a wrong hit somewhere and you lose your shield at the wrong time, that can be a problem too, but it's not too bad. I mean, it's really just optimizing milking the spawns is really where most of the challenge comes in. Because I
sounds
mean,
kind of like Gradius, where the hardest part is the beginning.
yeah, I would say so. The second stage is probably the hardest.
Because you gotta like get all your weapons and stuff.
Right, yeah. If you die, actually, the game becomes a lot harder. You can, once you die once, you kind of start chain dying because you lose the claw option that circles your ship, and that boosts your firepower quite a bit. So, but yeah, it's still not too bad.
Thank you.
So before we end this episode, were there any other replays you wanted to show, Peg?
I thought about showing Thunder Spirits, but it's kind of just too embarrassing to show, so I probably wouldn't.
Damn.
The game is it's okay. It's an okay game. I don't know. After playing the arcade version, there's kind of no point. I mean, it does have a few different. It does have actually some different levels than the arcade version, but the problem is there's still a lot of slowdown in it. You know, kind of like the Gradius 3, the SNES version. It's just random chunks of slowdown, and it kind of just ruins it. So
It's just
we'll
funny,
probably
like how that works out for Thunder Spirits, because it's the port of the arcade, right?
yeah, it's
But
a
then
port of a port.
port of
It's
a port, yeah.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah, it's definitely the weakest version out of the three. There are people that like the Genesis version more than the arcade version. I personally
Really?
like the arcade version more, but the Genesis version definitely has its fans.
Hmm.
But pretty
Does
much
it-
nobody likes the Super Nintendo version.
Does the music sound better in the arcade over the Genesis?
I think so, but there's lots of people that disagree with that. They're both really good. I personally think the arcade version has some better bass, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yep,
cool
that would be my
stuff.
pick.
Any tips for anyone wanting to come take your world record?
Yeah, I can tell you a few spots. Probably the biggest one I mentioned already is killing that mini boss in stage 2. Can get you a lot, 3,000 points. Another spot I think I could do some better milking in the stage 7, the like fortress stage near the end.
Was it those like gray pillar part? Like
I don't think you can get all of those. I missed one of
Oh.
them, but I tried every possible way with save states and everything to try to figure out how to get all of them, and I never could. So
I
I think that's the best you can do on that. It's just actually a matter of killing those little red things that spawn. Because those are worth 200 points each. So if you can just get even a few of those, it adds up pretty quick. You know, you look at another 1,000 points. I think, based on what I know about the game, I think I could. In theory, you could get another probably like 6,000 points on top of my score.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but you'd have to do it everything just perfectly.
Are you gonna be
It's pretty
trying to
hard.
improve your score by that much?
Am
Or-
I? No, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
I'm done with the game. If I come back and play it, it'd just be for fun. I wouldn't try to score on it anymore. I really burnt myself out on it. I mean, it took forever. Even for a simple game like this, I mean, it's just the Japanese world records are all pretty crazy, so you really have to just go all out if you're gonna try to beat one, and most of them I would say are impossible. This was one of the few that was like doable. Scene.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like sort of underestimate what goes into a world record. Like, it means you are the best person in the world at this game, and like all your strategies are pretty much your own at that point.
Yeah, I do definitely think people could break my record though, if like, because there's better players that could do it. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
it's still
if they
probably
actually
take.
played.
Yeah, they still have to put the time in, which that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Dumping credit after
Exactly.
credit ad nausea. It's just, it kind of like wears at you after a while. Just to put it in perspective, so I broke the record the first time by only about 200 points, and I came back, and I think the second time I broke it by like 2,500. I put probably like 15 hours extra to do that of runs, and I mean, this is a really short game, so that just tells you how many like runs I put in just to break it, my own record by a little bit. And I honestly think that if I tried again, it would just be even, it's kind of like
even
squeezing.
more tedious too.
Yeah, it just gets more and more tedious, where you're just kind of like, okay, I'm done with this.
Well, that's how scoring is. Like,
Yep, it is.
the closer you get to the theoretical maximum, the more your effort has to exponentially increase.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, kind of like how they have that saying on 2chan or whatever it's called, that like, I don't know, that it's like 100 times more effort to get to like world record than it is to get like a really high score.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it didn't take me too long to beat the previous forum record, but I mean, I'm not really sure how much time, people put into this game's kind of, I don't think anyone really plays it, so it was one of the games where like you can actually go and, actually beat the world record, which I don't think there's too many of them that are actually like that, but a lot of these older games. But
Personally, I don't think like how talented players are really matters all that much. It's more about like just the amount of time and practice they put into a game. Like, that's really what separates players, I think.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that for the most part. I still think people would be able to break this a lot quicker than probably I did. But
Oh yeah, people who have been playing
these,
like
crazy people that
30 years.
Yeah.
Do you play any of the more modern shmups, the cave games, or anything like that?
I just started getting into the Dodonpachi that was released on Steam recently,
Oh, cool.
but I haven't really put much time into it. My current goal right now is to get a good score in Strikers 1945-3.
Okay, cool, nice.
That's
So I'm
a
working
good-
on that.
That's a
yeah.
fun one.
I'm trying to get
I know,
into.
I know Peg plays a lot of like old school stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of venture into the newer stuff, but I don't have a ton of time, so it's just a very slow process.
And when you have other games you already have in mind, I mean, you might as well play the older
Yeah,
ones.
I've got like, I don't know, 100 different games on my like 2 playlists that I'd love to
Yeah.
play, but it's just, it's kind of hard to get everything in there.
So we did consider making this sort of like a double feature episode and showing Thunder Force 4. Like, are we still planning on doing that, or no?
There was no plan for it today, unfortunately.
Okay.
but, I mean, who knows on Thunder Force 4 here.
I've watched. I'm not like an expert. I've watched a few replays of it. But,
I thought you said you had a replay of it.
no, I don't. I have a Thunder Spirits replay, but
Gotcha.
like I said, I don't even know if I want to watch that, to be honest. But
All right.
yeah,
I had heard something about it, so I wasn't really sure.
yeah, I definitely plan on doing a Thunder Force 4 at some point. But like again, it's just my never-ending stack of games that I'll probably never get to. So
Well, hey, you did really good on this one.
yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of burned my brain out on it though. It's like, you know, there's some games like once you've, I don't know, beaten it, you never want to touch it again. I wouldn't say this one is one of those. I would say like Gradius 3 Arcade is one of those type of games. But
Yeah.
that game is just a miserable time. But
Yeah, like by the time I had looped right into, I was like, man, it's gonna be a long time before I play this again.
yeah,
It can be
Yeah,
rough
this
when that
game-
happens, because like sometimes you really do want to like take it further, but at the same time it's like you accomplish this goal and then like you had a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Like maybe it's time to move on, try something else, or maybe you should not move on and spend like
Yeah.
double the amount
get
of time
burned out.
you spent to get there to get somewhere else. And it is hard to make that choice, but hey, if the music's really good,
yeah.
there you go.
And this game wasn't. This game doesn't have anything that's like just silly, like the cube stage or something in Gradius 3. So
Oh,
yeah, it definitely helps.
I mean, yeah, just stuff like that is just like so demoralizing.
Gradius 3 is infamous for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking Gradius 3, I mean, we can just leave it at that, really. Like, fuck that game.
Did you guys already do that one?
Not fully, no.
actually, no.
Like, I played like Gradius 1 through 3 for an episode one time. And
Okay.
I think I must have
Yeah.
mentioned the cube rush, but yeah.
Oh,
We did like a little Gradius showcase.
okay.
But
It
nothing
wasn't like
proper. I mean,
Yeah, it wasn't like a full run or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Every now and then I think about going back to it and trying Loop 2, but it's so awful.
like the
But,
game's kind of
anyway.
fun. It's just got some like
It is.
injuries to it.
Yeah, there's like a good game in there if they wanted it to make it, but they just kind of, I don't know, they didn't put the time they needed to kind of iron it out. But anyway, I guess we're kind of getting a little off topic here. But
True.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, this was a fun episode. Checking out Thunder Force, and I mean, it's nice to reinvigorate some like kind of hype for Thunder Force because it is a pretty cool series, and it seems like
Classic.
people sometimes forget about it, but
Yeah, should definitely try it out if you're like not familiar with it, because this stuff right here is classic.
and if you're new to shmups, like they're really nice games just to get into them and try them out.
oh yeah, I think it's a great game for newer players. It kind of teaches you. I mean, it's very forgiving. You know, you got a shield, you've got options. It gives you like 20 lives or whatever. So it's pretty nice for new players.
Yeah.
Okay,
As you said,
All right.
just get drunk and play.
Yeah, exactly.
all right, that'll do it for episode 104 on Thunder Force Arcade. Thank you, Peg, for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
That was
Good job.
wonderful.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to do a Strikers episode, give me a call.
Sure thing.
Will do. Okay, later, everyone. Thanks for watching.